Which microphone is requesting a point of personal privilege?
Mic one. Mic one.
Mic one?
Point of personal privilege?
Yes, Mr. Heiss.
I feel I need to respond to Termott. The Mises Caucus has also offered Mike Termott the vice presidential position.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Heiss.
But UCC commercial code is, if you're smart, you dig into it. It's something that you can use to get yourself out of trouble and regain your personal sovereignty and your financial independence. There's some weird stuff that happens with maritime law too.
Right.
Do you think the chair properly supported Chase Oliver under the bylaws? Is that your opinion?
Yes, I think that is.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Well, that's disqualifying.
And so, the answer is take our fucking entire military and put them on our border and secure our border.
Dave was a groomsman at my wedding.
Is getting private funding to be chair, a conflict of interest?
In 2022, as I began to campaign for this role, I compared us to the Israelites wandering in the desert. And I have brought you to the edge of the promised land, and we have glimpsed it. But someone now has to be the one to lead you over the edge and into the promised land. Kind of like Moses, my role is to die on this hill.
This is a CNN tactic that's being used right now, and I think the people who see this video are going to understand that.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Angela, for that introduction.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fakertarians podcast. I'm your host, John Hudak, along with Jeremy Kantorowicz, Archie Flower, Ozzy Marazan?
Marazan, close enough.
Marazan, and our tech guy. Yeah, I was just asking him beforehand how to pronounce his last name. But today, we have a very special episode for you. We're going to be talking in advance of the LNC meeting tonight, because the LNC is considering a motion to censure both the Libertarian Party of Colorado and the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. There have been some developments regarding the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, especially in the last week, that we're going to be getting to, because they issued a letter several days ago about their cooperation, or I'll put cooperation in quotes, with the LNC and the rest of the party. And Stephen Nekhaila, the chair of the LP, has also weighed in on it. So before we get started, how's everybody doing today?
Well, Jeremy says he's dying, so.
Okay, Jeremy's dying.
Dying a little.
I just wish we could have gone with our other potential title. I understand why we didn't, but it was funny.
No, maybe we'll reveal that one someday.
Yeah, let's put that one away. I get it.
Yeah. Okay, well let's.
No, I'm definitely too old for dead Nazi shots. Way too old for
what
that.
What is a dead Nazi shot?
It is half Yag and half Rumpelmintz.
I just had to have you explain that so you didn't offend LPNH. It's not anyone from the affiliate. Everyone's alive as far as we know. So let's jump into this letter a little bit. I am going to pull it up, and it's short enough. Should I read the whole thing? Or should we just talk about it?
Go ahead and read it. Or pull the important parts out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, and I'll summarize and read some of the more important points. The LPNH issued a letter saying that they've recently engaged in several constructive conversations with the LNC chair, Stephen Nekhaila, the communications director, Brian McWilliams, who is an Angela McCardle holdover, and the vice chair, Paul Darr. It's talking about how the discussions have centered around shared goals of improving the party's brand and maintaining a positive and professional relationship with party members who may disagree on style or approaches. So already you can tell this letter is going to be complete bullshit. LPNH, they write, has become well known for its bold, unapologetic communication strategy. That's certainly one way to say it. They talk about how they don't shy away from controversial subjects, and they claim to put forth the most effective some of the most effective libertarian marketing over the last few years. I would definitely disagree with that. So in this letter, they propose 3 rules, but they don't say that they're going to follow those rules. They're saying they're proposing it, and they say, quote, if you play by these rules, we will too. So basically it's saying you have to go along with everything that they're proposing here. Otherwise, they're just going to do the same shit they've always been doing. So the first rule, which I think is an important one to break down, it says, I'll just read the whole paragraph. No intra-party attacks, no aggressive language, slurs, or insults between Libertarian Party members, save those for our actual enemies. This includes both right-coded insults, gay, retard, etc., and left-coded insult, racist, incel, etc., as well as calls for disaffiliation, removal of party members, etc. So it's important to break that paragraph down. Some of it sounds pretty good on its face. The problem here is how this is even if they actually follow this, which I don't think they will, even by what it says here. The problem with this in practice is that LPNH can tweet something like, let's say, what did they say the other day? Ending slavery and granting the right to vote was the most expensive and worst thing America ever did. That's a real quote from them. So they could say that, and if you call them racist for that, if you call for disaffiliation.
Yeah, that's the funnier part is if you call for disaffiliation, not even if you insult them, if you say, hey, they should be disaffiliated for this, you're the bad guy. What the hell?
Exactly. If you say that they posted something racist, it basically gives them free reign to still call you whatever slur they want to call you. And it also only applies to intra-party attacks here. So they can still call everybody else a bunch of slurs. They can still say a bunch of other insults, call everybody gay, whatever they do. And as long as they're not party members, none of that applies here. I think the bigger problem than just intra-party communication is what people outside the party and inside the party are seeing, regardless of who it's directed at. It's not just that they're mean to party members or something. It's that they're posting a bunch of racist shit, posting a bunch of homophobic, transphobic shit, and people are seeing that and thinking that that's the libertarian brand. And I mean, at this point, it is part of the libertarian brand because nothing is being done about it besides this conversation that we'll get into. So the next paragraph talks about having intellectual, sophisticated disagreement. It's basically just a nice little word salad saying that they want to show that the Libertarian Party conducts disagreements better than other parties do, which they haven't been very good at showing so far. But anyway, number 3 says provide context when being controversial. Basically, what it's saying there is that they can still post their, I don't know, pro-white nationalist bullshit, their anti-trans stuff, whatever they want to post. And as long as they provide some context, it's all good, which they didn't do today with their anti-trans posts, but we'll get to that. And then it says at the end of the letter that they welcome and will continue to have further dialogue with the chair, Stephen Nekhaila, and other members of the LNC who wish to be part of the discussions. Now, in response to that letter, and I will read this full tweet, Stephen Nekhaila responded to it on Twitter, and he said, big ups to LPNH for our continued dialogue around a shared vision on messaging. We aren't going to agree on everything, and this won't satisfy everyone, but that's the point. Good talks mean compromise on all sides. I appreciate Ben, who's the chair of LPNH, willing to let our teams meet and have a productive conversation. If anything, this keeps the ball moving forward in a collaborative rather than hostile relationship. Let's fight the state, not each other. So it's basically saying, oh, let's just get along with LPNH, even if they're posting a bunch of stuff that makes us look terrible. let's fight other people and let's just ignore that giant elephant in the room. So I did watch another interview I want to get into. It was Stephen Nekhaila was on DL Cummings' podcast just the other day, the 28th, to talk about that. But I wanted to give you guys a chance to comment on either the letter or the chair's response first.
I'll jump in. The letter, my first comment on the letter is they're not even responding to the real issue. I mean, we've kind of addressed that, but they've reframed the conversation as, hey, it's about how we talk to people in the party. And no, not that it's a good thing that they'd call somebody else in the party gay or whatever they use, but that's not the issue. That's not what most people are worried about. Most people are worried about how they talk about black people, Jews, whatever. And they've now reframed the conversation as, well, we're going to be nice to people in the party, and everybody should be happy now. But that's not what the conversation was about. And I don't know if it's worked or not, but it at least redirected things.
Yeah, and basically, as long as they actually follow this, which they won't, but let's say there's some hypothetical where everyone is nice to them, no one calls them racist, and no one calls to disaffiliate them, it means they won't call Chase Oliver a faggot anymore, which they did multiple times during the campaign when Chase was the presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party. But they can call a bunch of other people faggots. That's not solving anything.
It's also, they attach no stakes to this. So if they don't do it, what happens exactly?
Exactly.
Right. There's zero accountability within this. Like it's that. I mean, that's the thing is it's already weak, and then there's just no accountability.
Yeah, there's no enforcement mechanism. I mean, it's just kicking the ball down the road right now because we know they're not actually going to change. And I'm going to get into some of the things they've already tweeted since this letter came out that makes it clear they're not actually going to change. But this is just, I have to think that they just put this out there in advance of the censure motion to try to get that voted down. Even though I do think they would probably also, some of them might view that as a badge of honor if they're censured. And we'll get into that because that's kind of one of the things that Stephen Nekhaila brings up. And I don't think that is actually an issue. But Stephen Nekhaila was on a podcast the other day that I was talking about. I believe it's called the Liberty Dad podcast with DL Cummings. I watched the entire hour and a half yesterday because I wanted to.
My condolences.
John, as always, willing to sacrifice his brain cells for the greater good.
Yeah, I'm glad it hasn't caught up to me yet.
What you've had to watch, that's actually rates as highbrow. Some of
I know.
That Tower Gang stuff. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, and I'm not watching like Peter Quiznos anymore or any of that.
I never understood how you still functioned after watching listening to them talk for hours. It's like, oh, I get a 20-second clip and my brain just feels like, what am I hearing? What are words?
So I want to go through some of the things and respond to some of the things that Stephen said on the podcast. So he says that there was good faith on both sides in coming to the table. That's not true. I do think that, and Stephen talks about this, I do think Stephen actually has an issue with some of the posts coming out of LPNH. And I do think that if he could snap his fingers, he would like to solve the issue. I can be charitable and say that. But I don't think Stephen's willing to do enough on one side. And on the other side, no, LPNH isn't going to change. They've been doing this for like 4 years now. There has been no sign of anything letting up, both before this letter for the last 4 years or after this letter. It's been the same thing. And Nekhaila, in the video, he says that he's against the censure motion, or he doesn't, I don't remember if he references this one specifically, but he said he's against censure because it's a blunt tool that goes at everyone in the affiliate, and that it would also be censuring just moderate party members, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because if I were an anti-Jeremy Kauffman person in the state affiliate for LPNH and the censure motion were to somehow pass tonight, I wouldn't think that was against me. It's pretty obvious who the motion is referring to. It's referring to Kaufman, Weir, anyone who's supporting that, anyone who's putting out this kind of messaging, which from what I've heard is mostly Jeremy Kaufman.
It's also, if that's too blunt, what are the more targeted options? Are there? There aren't.
Yeah. So he says that it's basically disaffiliation or this,
which disaffiliation is not more targeted than a censure
right.
motion.
So, no, you're right. You're 100% right there. And he also says that censure would backfire because they just have more bad behavior. As far as that goes, I don't think that any of us really think that LPNH is going to stop doing this if the censure motion passes. I think Kaufman's going to do what Kaufman's going to do. I think the actual purpose of the censure motion is to show that the National Party doesn't support this kind of stuff. Because there are a lot of people who have left the party or just won't join the party because of this kind of messaging, because of how it looks, because of what this messaging represents and how it portrays the party. If the Libertarian National Committee were to censure them for that, it doesn't solve the issue, and I think disaffiliation is probably going to have to be a step down the road unless there's something else in the meantime. But it at least allows people to point to the censure motion passing and say, see, this is not what the Libertarian Party is about. This is a rogue affiliate. We condemn them. This isn't what we're for. Instead, we're going to most likely have tonight probably a few people vote for the censure motion, probably some abstentions, some no's, and then LPNH is going to say, see, we can do this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's not just about whether it's going to create more bad behavior.
Say something about the haters and losers who tried to make who tried to get them censored, and that'll be the end of it. The same way that, they'd wear it as a badge of honor if they got censored. Okay, they're going to say stupid crap regardless, like you said. And they're going to twist the censure motion one way or another, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
If you just say, well, they're gonna act this way no matter what. So why do anything ever? Why ever respond to anything? That's the dumbest, most defeatist attitude I've ever heard. Like, we're just not gonna do anything anymore.
Well, he's saying that the thing we're going to do is the constructive conversations that aren't actually doing anything, because it's clear that they're not actually changing, and we'll get to that. But if conversations were going to actually do something, I know early on, Stephen had said once, and by early on, I mean once Ben Weir was elected as chair a few months ago, Stephen was saying that they were going to have conversations. Then there's been nothing that's come out of that. I mean, if you want to call this letter something, I mean, it's a letter. It hasn't changed their messaging. And Stephen says that he thinks this is a good first step. He also says that LPNH, and this is a quote, likes to have that fiery, spicy kind of messaging, which I don't always agree with for sure. This isn't fiery, spicy messaging. I mean, there can be fiery, spicy messaging that's like actual radical libertarian principles. This is just them saying they don't like black people. That's not fiery and spicy. That's just them being assholes.
Yeah, it's not like anybody's getting recruited to the party by this strong messaging.
Yeah,
I mean honestly, it feels like they're treating him like they're addicted. It's just like all this, just try your best.
And he also says in the episode, and remember this was on May 28th, I think it was in the afternoon, he said that he thinks LPNH should stay away from anything involving race, and that he's communicated that to them. That clearly is not working. And he also says that he's fairly confident that LPNH will follow through with what they said in their letter. There's a direct quote from the interview where he says, as long as you approach them respectfully they're going to approach you respectfully. Like, no, that's not true. He mentions, too, just as an offhand comment, that he had a really good conversation with the Libertarian Party of Colorado about a week ago, and that made me roll my eyes because I doubt there's going to be any changes there. But the interviewer, D.L. Cummings, he asked at one point whether disaffiliation is totally off the table. Stephen kind of dances around that. From my recollection, he says something like, well, there'd be some LNC members that would support it. But he doesn't really directly answer the question. He doesn't say, yes, it's off the table, or no, it's on the table if things go south. But he does say that he thinks it's a bad idea. He also admits that the Libertarian Party of Colorado and the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, if they're openly endorsing Republicans, he specifically says if that's what they're doing, and it sure seems like they are, is a violation of the bylaws. And when asked what should be done about that, he says that's for the delegates in the LNC, but he doesn't know if that's something he would pursue. He says that he would have moved for disaffiliation if any affiliate had put Donald Trump or someone else on the ballot instead of Chase Oliver, but he cites that didn't happen. I think it's important.
Yeah, it's important to say since it didn't happen.
Yeah, so it's important to break that down, though, because the Libertarian Party of Colorado expressed their intention to put RFK Jr. on the ballot instead of Chase. The only reason they weren't able to is because Karen Ann Harlow's cut them off and got Chase on the ballot first. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, I believe it was back in June, said that they can't keep Chase off the ballot because of how ballot access works in New Hampshire, but that they're not going to be providing him any support. And then right before the election, they explicitly endorsed Donald Trump. So it's basically, they're basically saying, yeah, we would have kept him off the ballot if we could, but we couldn't because that's not how ballot access works there. So if Nekhaila is just staking it on that technicality, I think it should be more about their intent than what actually happened.
It should be, but that means we'd have to take him to task, and he doesn't want to be taken to task.
Exactly. And I don't know. I'm trying to get to the bottom of what the motivations are here. I do think Stephen wants to improve the party. I don't think he's Angela. I think it's a mix of wishful thinking, a mix of being naive about what can be achieved, but also him not really wanting to rock the boat. Because
Also, the votes to censure or disaffiliate aren't there right now, I don't think. So even if he wanted that, now he's not helping in that regard, but I don't think the votes exist anyway.
Yeah. And you're probably right. I mean, I do think if Stephen wanted a censure motion, I think he could probably swing some people on the LNC that are going to either abstain or vote against it. I don't know if it'd be enough to pass. But at the very least, again, you could point to the chair of the party, who's kind of thought of as the figurehead of the party, endorsing the motion to censure and say, look, this isn't what represents the party. I mean, it wouldn't be perfect, but it'd at least be something. Instead, you have this, oh, well, we shouldn't do that. We got to talk with them. If this was like one or two tweets or something like that, or if this was going on a couple weeks, like, okay, yeah, have a conversation with them before you do anything rash. But it's been 4 years of the same thing.
Yeah, they should have been disaffiliated. They should have been disaffiliated 4 years ago when JBH tried to. That's what should have happened.
Right, that was the time to disaffiliate.
Any competent organization would have done it then.
Once again, JBH did nothing wrong.
And I was given the example, and I think I used this example on the last podcast, but I was given the example today with someone I was talking to in a chat that if there was a Wendy's and the manager of that Wendy's was just complaining about minorities to every customer that walked in. That would not last 4 years. That manager would be out of there like later that day or the next day at the latest. A competent, serious organization is not going to put up with the kind of messaging that's coming out like this unless you consider Stormfront to be a competent and serious organization. Like that's what kind of messaging is coming out of that affiliate, and it's been coming out of that affiliate for several years now.
And even if you want to look at like kind of the edgy messaging, Wendy's is also a good example. Just watch their Twitter. Like,
right, and you can have edgy, radical messaging that draws attention to you without using slurs or constantly complaining about black people or saying that ending apartheid was bad for South Africa. Like there's ways around that. That's right. You don't have to do it like that. It's not just about being radical for them. It's about they're a bunch of racist assholes. That's what it's about.
Since we're going with the Wendy's messaging, if the manager came to the register and said, "I'm sorry, I can't officially put the Big Mac up on my price board, but it's a superior burger and it's only $3.49 across the street," would Mr. Nekhaila be okay with that manager working for him? Probably not.
Of course not.
There would probably be a very immediate response, and it wouldn't be to just have a conversation.
But what if that manager put out a letter saying that, well, if I don't insult other Wendy's affiliates, yeah, I mean that's what we're dealing with here. It's a clown show.
I'm now imagining like Jeremy Kaufman in a Wendy's uniform, just saying the best burgers next door.
That can be done with AI.
We might have to put that one together. But I wanted to give some examples. Obviously, we've talked about LPNH for years now. And if I were to give every even really, really bad example of things they've said over the last few years, it would probably take the entire podcast. So,
or 8 hours, like I suggested earlier.
You're not wrong. So let's just go over, I don't know, like 4 examples from a few days before this letter came out. So let me pull this one up. This one I actually didn't catch until today. I don't know how I missed this one. But the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire on May 25th tweeted, basically ending slavery and granting the right to vote was the most expensive and worst thing America ever did. Slavery is bad, but the slaves should have been sent home. And these are the people that are coming to the table in good faith here. But where can I even start with that? That's ending slavery and granting granting former slaves the right to vote was the worst thing America ever did. I mean, even just putting that on the issue of slavery, they're saying that ending slavery and letting black people vote was worse than slavery, which is just absurd on its face. And then if you take a bunch of other things that the American government has done over the years, I mean, we don't have to go through every one of them, but there have been some pretty awful things. LPNH is saying that ending slavery and letting black people vote was worse than whatever you can think of. I don't know, Trail of Tears, Japanese internment camps, slavery itself.
All you need to hear is the phrase, slavery was bad, but just
right. And then
we got it. We loud and clear. Thank you.
And then even with, I do want to even analyze the but here, because they're saying slaves should have been sent home as if, I mean, if someone was taken from some country in Africa and wanted to be brought back to, like, let's say they had a home somewhere, they just came like a year ago and they wanted to go back there, like, sure, help them get home. But a lot of slaves, especially by that point, were born in the United States.
And some of them had been here for their
exactly. So
they've been here for hundreds of years.
This is their home. Or was their home at the time this happened. So they don't have any connection to. I mean, they don't have like a house in some African country that they can go back to when they walk in and see their family. Like, this is where they are. This is their home.
Right. Because, yeah, didn't they? I mean, I think they stopped. I think the U.S. stopped even allowing slaves to be imported. Gosh, it feels so gross talking about it like that. But I think like in the early 1800s.
Yeah. So
I mean,
what I'm
so
reading is it
you've
was
got
1808. They
1808.
They made
Okay.
it illegal for Americans to engage in the slave trade between nations. So yeah, I mean, there might have still been a few that came over or something like that, but the vast majority, by the time you get to the end of the Civil War, were born in the United States.
That's I mean, almost all of them. You're talking multiple generations at that point. That's almost 60 years later.
Exactly.
Right. Right. So this is home. I mean, that's.
But honestly, I don't even think this is worth engaging with on a rational level, because it's obviously not.
Oh yeah, and they know what they're doing here. I mean, they try to say, "Oh, we're not racist," and I'll get to that in a
We
little
said
bit
slavery
too.
is bad, so we're good. It's fine, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what else we do.
There was also another tweet that I think that one kind of came from in the replies, where they said America was a roughly libertarian nation for more than a century. Turns out if you expand the vote from just land-owning white men, you quickly get communism. So they're saying there that when the United States had slavery, America was a roughly libertarian nation. I mean, that either looks very bad on what libertarianism is, or it shows that they're complete idiots, or it shows that they're purposely misrepresenting libertarianism. I mean, take your pick there.
It's also, as always with these people and their claims, what do you think communism is? And do you think we're communist? And if so, explain, and don't use the word the LGBTQ agenda in that framing. Say something that's based on communism, not we're too woke. What?
Yeah, and going back to Chase Oliver for a second, during his campaign, they were calling him a gay race communist.
Right. And their explanation was because he was gay.
Right.
Not anything else.
Right. It wasn't, oh, he's trying to redistribute the means of production. It's, oh, he's gay and he doesn't hate black people.
Communist.
That's a gay race communist. A gay race communist is not a thing. What does race even do in there? I don't.
What is communist even doing there?
No, I know, but what is that? What is the word race even modifying? I don't know. It's a good question.
Like, is it a gay race, or like, are they talking about racism? Like, I didn't know that the gays came in a race.
If he was black, would he not be a race communist? Would he just be a gay communist then?
Well, we can actually let's segue into that, because another tweet from May 25th, a few days before this letter came out, they said, and they were responding to Jeff Charles, who we interact with on Twitter all the time. He seems like a good guy. He's pretty obviously a libertarian. They said to him, because he said, "I'm glad the LPNH social media folks are slightly open with their desire for a white ethno-state, but I wish they'd straight out say it. They won't, because they are feckless cowards. It'd be better for libertarians if these people just admitted what they are." And that was actually in response to that roughly libertarian tweet about the time during slavery. And they quote tweeted that and said, "A major problem for the libertarian movement is elevating midwit or antisocial blacks. Don't be so excited to have blacks on your side that you elevate infiltrators like Jeff Charles. Principled black libertarians are welcome here. Manipulative liars aren't. Stay away, Jeff." I mean, I'm sure there's things I've disagreed with Jeff Charles on before, but I have seen absolutely no evidence that he's not a principled libertarian, or I've seen no evidence that he's antisocial or a midwit.
beyond the very, very racist comments in that message. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just them doing the racism stuff again. I mean, you never see them say a major problem for the libertarian movement is elevating midwit or antisocial white people or something like that. They're specifically keying in on
No, because if we
black
did
people.
that, Jeremy Kaufman wouldn't be here.
And so that is just a few of the tweets from a few days before this letter where they're supposedly acting in good faith. I didn't even get to the one where they called one of their members a transgender socialist prostitute. But let's move on to the tweets after this letter, because clearly they're coming to the table in good faith, and this is a great first step, and they're totally going to improve. So, okay, let's see that. Let's start with let's find the date here. I got to scroll down a little bit. The morning of May 28th, because the letter, I believe, was on the 27th. It was. They said, unfortunately, only white Americans consistently believe in free speech. American culture doesn't appear to be capable of transmitting belief in free speech very well. Free speech will end in America, given current demographic trends. Now, if they were actually worried about trying to influence racial minorities to be more libertarian, like people like to try to bring more black people or Hispanic people or whatever into the party, they wouldn't be posting the stuff they'd be posting. They'd actually be trying to appeal to them. Instead, they're just saying...
Remember, us calling them, us or anybody calling for them to be disaffiliated is awful and reprehensible, because they're big free speech supporters. But criticism,
right, we can't hurt their feelings, though. You know,
yeah. That doesn't count. You're not allowed to do that. That's not free speech.
But they're saying that specifically because of demographics, that's why free speech is going to end in America. If they're actually worried about that, they can try to not be racist assholes and actually try to communicate to racial minorities about why libertarian principles are a good thing and why they help everyone. But no, they'd rather just do their Stormfront posting.
Yeah. Well, and we've got, I mean, if you look at the administration now and what they're doing to, pressure media, trying to revoke, legal status for people for writing op-eds, digging through social media posts and stuff. This very white administration is very much not for free speech.
Not at all.
You'd think you'd bring that up, but no.
Well, speaking of that,
they're not.
Let's segue to the next tweet that happened after the letter. We're so proud to have been the only libertarian party in the country to endorse Donald Trump, and we did it to free Ross. See you at PorkFest. So they're still saying, and this can even go back to the discussion around Stephen Nekhaila, where he said that he would vote to disaffiliate if they had put Trump on the ballot. They're still saying that they don't even regret that they endorsed Donald Trump. It's not even just that they don't regret it. They're still proud of it. So clearly nothing's changed there.
After all that he's done.
Well, actually, it seems like some of the things they are pretty happy about. I'm going to pull up another tweet just now. This was a Jeremy Kaufman retweet that they did. It was in response to a question from a state house member in New Hampshire asking what New Hampshire legislators should focus on. And there's a 1 through 5 here. Number 5 is exclusionary signaling, which I'm sure is going to be some other weird racist shit, just at least the way Kaufman's using it. But for number 2, he says deport refugees and migrants and high taxes on any person or NGO involved in this. And by this, I assume he means refugees and people from other countries being here. So clearly he's in favor of what Trump is doing there. And he's not even just I think it's a stupid argument to say, oh, I'm not against immigration, I'm just against illegal immigration. But he's not even doing that here. He's saying deport refugees and migrants. Migrants applies to not just undocumented immigrants, but all immigrants. And refugees, by definition, unless they've overstayed something or their status had changed, a refugee is generally here legally. Like, they're let in because of where they're leaving, at least by the legal definition there.
And I'm sure he would. I'm sure he wants to deport the quote unquote refugees from South Africa.
Oh no, yeah, I'm sure he'd love to have them here because, like we talked about before, he doesn't think apartheid should have ended in South Africa, and that tweet actually came from the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire account. It wasn't even just Kaufman's personal account. And for anyone,
okay. We're not attacking other Libertarian Party affiliates, so it's okay.
Yeah, we're just endorsing apartheid, guys. We're not attacking any members. We're just endorsing a terrible thing that happens, and we'd like it to come back. Totally cool at that point. So next, I want to move on to. They've done this before, where they've tweeted out, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for libertarian children," which, if anyone doesn't know, is a very, very thinly veiled. It's not even thinly veiled reference to the 14-word slogan. It's a white supremacist slogan that says, "We must secure We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." So they're only changing one word in that slogan, and they've used this repeatedly. If you look in the replies, you see who they're trying to appeal to. They're not using it in some ironic way. It's a bunch of white nationalists in their replies that are all happy about it, and obviously you can tell from the context of the rest of their posts that they're not actually against the whole 14 words thing. And I do want to point out too that sometimes the 14 words are used in conjunction with another shorter slogan. It's sometimes abbreviated as 1488, and 88 stands for Heil Hitler. So it doesn't put them in great company trying to use that slogan.
But the company they want, so.
Yes, it is.
They want to hint at, they want to wink at it, which
they also explicitly say in many other tweets that libertarianism is a quote unquote white only ideology, or primarily a white ideology. So they're not really changing the 14 words, are they? Because to them, libertarian means white.
Yeah, and
so when they say libertarian children, they're still saying white children.
Yeah, they're talking about how it's going to be vastly majority white. And they try to say that, I had this discussion with Kaufman a little bit the other day, and I'll get into that. He tries to say that if someone wouldn't deport every single racial minority, then that means they're not a white nationalist. But, an ethno-state doesn't necessarily have to be 100% of that ethnicity. There could be a white nationalist ethno-state that has small amounts of minorities, but obviously those minorities are going to be treated like shit. It's a cop-out for him to say that, oh yeah, okay, so there can still be a few minorities here and there, and that means we're not white nationalists. And let me get into that part a little bit, because Kaufman made a post in the LP 2026 Delegates Uncensored Unmoderated group on Facebook. And he was posting the letter from LPNH, and he was talking about how, oh yeah, we should all work together and we want to be respectful. You know what he's doing, in that he's full of shit. So I replied to it, and I'm pulling it up right now. So I said, I am happy to respectfully tell white nationalists to fuck off. So Kaufman decides to play a little game here. He goes, absolutely, me too. Let's hold a hearing for any white nationalist, marshal the evidence, and kick them out. And I could just point to Jeremy Kaufman's Twitter account and be like, here's the evidence. But I figured I'd play his little game and find someone actually calling themselves a white nationalist. Coincidentally, the person that I found, he goes by N of one on Twitter. It's at true_N of one. He calls himself, he literally says, I'm an ultra reactionary white nationalist libertarian. And he also identifies himself as an LPNH member. So I bring that up to Kaufman, and he just goes into this whole thing about, oh, you're just canceling him via screenshots. Try having a phone call. You should ask him directly if someone non-white should be banned or excluded from New Hampshire due to their race. He said no when I inquired. And I suspect he's using white nationalist to mean majority white and not exclusively white. He said, you claim to be inclusive, curious, open-minded, yet you obsessed with othering and hating someone you've never even tried to speak to. And I mean, I have interacted with this guy on Twitter. It's very obvious what he is and what he's about. I mean, he's telling you in the screenshots.
Yeah, it's right there. It goes back to what we said last week. When people tell you who they are, believe them. Don't look for. You don't need to look for weird ways of. Well, what if? No. They said what they are.
Yeah, exactly. And it pairs with a tweet from Kaufman that I think was in the last week or two, where he says he's never seen a white nationalist in the Libertarian Party. And he literally is saying he's spoken with this guy. I mean, it seems like they're friendly. They retweet each other. Right. So, I mean, you can't engage in good faith with Kaufman because he likes playing this game where he makes it obvious what he's actually about, but he just won't explicitly say it. And that's what's going on. It's not a good faith conversation. He's not changing anything that he's doing based on this letter or based on what Steve and Nekhaila is asking him to do. He's doing the exact same shit.
That's all he'll ever do, because that's what he wants to do.
Yeah. No, exactly. So the motion is tonight. It's Bill Redpath's motion to censure both the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire and the Libertarian Party of Colorado, which is kind of like mini LPNH, like their LPNH's like cousin or something like that. They basically do the same shit, just not as often. But I mean, they posted. We've talked about that anti-Semitic racist meme they posted a couple weeks ago about basically saying that the problem with slavery was that Black people were coming to America. So again, you know what they're about too. What should happen, and I mean, when I say this should happen, this is like bare minimum. Like, this should be the moderate position, because I'm all for just disaffiliating them this second.
It should happen because there's a yes or no binary choice, and it should be the correct choice.
Right.
But yes, it should be far beyond that.
Right. And I wish there was a motion to disaffiliate, but I do like that there was a motion introduced to censure, because it's something. What should happen is that should ideally pass, not going to. It would make it clear that this isn't the same party of the last few years. It would make it clear that white nationalist rhetoric doesn't have a home here. And once that motion passes, if LPNH's behavior doesn't change, you'd be able to point to the fact that the motion passed to say this doesn't represent us. And at that point, you could also move to disaffiliate, because you're taking a smaller measure and saying we're against this. If that doesn't change, disaffiliate at that point. What's actually going to happen is, I bet there's going to be like maybe 3 or 4 yes votes. I mean, that might even be stretching it. I can think of 2 that I think are almost definite yeses, and a few that might go abstain to try to kind of stay out of it, which I don't support at all. I think that's completely cowardly at this point to abstain on something like this. Like, if you're going to, and I would like to see Stephen actually vote on it. We already know what his position is, but I know that a chair does often abstain from motions, and that's one thing. But abstaining from this as a non-chair is a completely different thing, because it's just saying you don't have the balls to actually say what you think. I mean, if you're against it, make that clear. Show what you are instead of saying, "Oh, I'm just not going to vote on it."
Yeah, it's like voting
but they're
present
cowards,
on
so.
impeachment and stuff. It's like just actually. I mean, it's the equivalent, more cowardly version of a no vote anyway. So
Yeah, no, it is, and especially on something
And
like
they're
this.
cowards. That's why we're here.
Because this is specifically about sending a message. Like, it's not like this is some, I don't know, policy manual amendment where you're like, oh, actually, I don't really know. Like, I can see a good side of this. I can see a
And
bad
it's
side
not
of
a vote to
this.
disaffiliate. It's not the nuclear option. So even if you're gonna, well, I don't know if we should ever do that because it's too hard, whatever. You're not even doing that. You're just saying stop doing this crap. And if you can't even stand up and say stop doing this crap, why are you here?
Exactly. If you can't say, hey guys, maybe we should stop saying that ending slavery and letting black people vote was the worst thing America ever did. If you can't say that, I mean, the tent is not big enough. I'm sorry. There should be a big tent libertarian party that has a bunch of different views, from pragmatists to radicals, classical liberals, a bunch of other different caucuses and little sub-ideologies that have popped up over the years. But I can't welcome the ending slavery and letting black people vote was bad caucus. Like, that shouldn't be here.
As JBH just commented, yes, of course it should pass. It should pass unanimously. But as we said before, we're way beyond that. What should have happened is they should have been disaffiliated when you made that motion 3 years or 4 years ago, whatever it was now. That's what should have happened. That's what any professional organization would have done.
Right. And then I know you can say too that there's not at that time when JBH was actually trying to do something about the problem, but after that, when Mises fully took over, like, there was a basically Mises across the board kind of thing going on. So the current Libertarian National Committee has at least changed a bit. I mean, it's a lot of the same people, but some of them seem to have broken from the I'm going to just do whatever Michael Heist tells me mode. So they don't have any excuse to not pass this now. And I mean, a big part of I think at least, and I'm not just saying this because it's a problem for me, but I'm saying this because it's a problem for a lot of the people I've talked to, is that people don't want to be associated with a party that allows this. I mean, if you look at the membership numbers, they're absolutely in the gutter right now. And it all started after the so-called Reno reset where Mises took over. And it's the result of this kind of messaging. People don't want to be associated with it. People don't want their employers, their friends, their family to think that they're part of some white nationalist group when they see LPNH in the media talking about how black people who want reparations should be sent back to Africa, or telling some black woman she should pick cotton. That ends up representative of the party on the national stage. That's what people see, because this kind of thing does get media coverage. And that's the thing that LPNH kind of points to. They're like, oh, see, we're getting media coverage, but it's media coverage for being pieces of shit. And when you advertise that your group is for being pieces of shit, who do you think you're going to have join that group? It's going to be pieces of shit.
Right. And then everybody else has to answer to the pieces of shit. I will tell you, there was a point where I was considering a local run for county council or something similar. And it was just like, I'm never going to do that under that banner. And I don't want to run as Democrat or Republican for obvious reasons. So like that having to answer any questions about this would be a death knell to a campaign. Why would I want to answer questions about why I'm obviously Jewish and part of a Jewish community? Why would I want to be answering questions about, well, there are members of your party who have been tweeting positively about the Nazi party? Like,
right.
How would that attract anybody?
Right.
No, it doesn't. And it's not even like there's been messaging from Libertarian Party related Twitter accounts attacking Jewish people, attacking black people, attacking gay people, attacking trans people.
LPNH leading the charge on that. LPCO's done their fair share lately as well.
Oh, and actually, speaking of trans people, I actually missed a tweet I wanted to go over from LPNH today. It starts with saying "Happy Pride," and if it was anyone other than LPNH, you might be like, "Oh, this is actually going to be something decent. It's going to be how the Libertarian Party stands with the LGBTQ community and they're for everyone's freedoms and stuff like that." Like I'm thinking of maybe like if LP Louisiana had tweeted it. Instead,
or if, like FedEx had tweeted it.
yeah. Instead, are we pulling it up? Here we go. Yeah. So I'll describe this for anyone who's just listening without video, but it's pretty clear from anyone who can see it. The top panel is a trans flag colored alligator who is eating a "Don't Tread on Me" steak, and it says "Fuck around and find out." The bottom panel is a bigger "Don't Tread on Me" snake with a gun pointing it at the gator with the snake in its mouth, saying "Stay the fuck away from our kids, freak." I would also like to note that Tom Woods is not featured anywhere in this meme for some reason. But anyway, their Pride messaging, their Pride Month messaging is calling trans people pedophiles. That's basically what it is there. I mean, this is after they came to the table in good faith to fix things. This is today.
But it doesn't attack another party affiliate, so it's fine.
Yeah,
they set the rules. By their rules, it's fine.
Yeah, because they didn't specifically say that to a trans person who's in the LP hasn't been mean to them. If there's so many different layers to that, because like if you go by their rules, well, you first got to look if they're in the party, and then you got to look at whether they've called LPNH racist or transphobic or homophobic
or criticize them in any way.
Yeah, exactly. Left-coded insults like saying they should be disaffiliated.
They're pretty much out. Sorry, not to sidetrack. Like JBH said, they're pretty much out of money already. So the Kennedy grift is winding down, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's what I heard at the last LNC meeting, was that the joint fundraising committee is done. So there's not going to be any more money coming in there. So it's just going to have to be donations at this point and membership dues. I would say that if LPNH, even if LPNH were to be censured, I think there would be a pretty big donation drive out of that. If LPNH were to be disaffiliated, I think a lot of people would actually join the party again. Because
if just to point out, if you're going to donate, please donate to the John Hudak for Chair campaign.
I was going to bring that up, actually. So as people know, I am running for chair, and what I'm going to talk about isn't anything that goes towards me. I don't even get, or even that goes towards my campaign. It's just a way of tracking donations. So I was at the LNC meeting the other weekend, and there was some talk, and I agreed to have a donor link. So I'll put that in the replies right now, and let me explain why I'm doing that.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I will say I would personally save your money, but if you're going to donate to the LP, if they for some reason do something good or you want to make a point, that's how you do it.
So, yeah. So first, I'm going to preface this by saying I do not blame anyone a single bit for not wanting to give $1 to the Libertarian Party right now. Let's not even talk $10, $1, based on what's going on with LPNH and everything that's happened over the last few years. I mean, obviously getting rid of Angela was good, but none of the cleanup is actually really happening. I mean, a little bit, just baby steps like getting rid of Heist, but the actual hard work, like doing something about LPNH and cleaning up the mess from the last few years, really hasn't happened. If, though, you are joining the party or you do want to give money to the party. If you give through this link, which is lp.org/hudak donor, that's going to be tracked as coming from that link. So I can say, and this isn't even necessarily about supporting my chair run. Like you might think my chair run is dumb. You can say, oh, there's someone else I want to support. I don't even think you should be doing this. That's completely fine. But if you donate through that link, it will track it. And I and others will be able to say that the money that came through that link supports the kind of messaging that we're putting out. So it's people that want something to actually be done about LPNH. It's people that want something to be done about all this rot that the Mises Caucus has caused over the years. It's people that want something to be done about our chair funneling money to her boyfriend and all but wearing a MAGA hat during the campaign. It actually shows that people want change, and it's a way to quantify that. Again, I do not blame you at all if you do not want to give the LP, let's say, a cent this time. But if you do, that's my pitch there, that you should do it through this link. And we can move on to the next thing now. But I was going to touch on that at some point, but I wanted to hit that there. Oh, another thing, and it's hilarious that I just did a fundraising pitch when I'm sandwiching it in between the LP is not really going to do anything about LPNH and what I'm going to bring up next. But that's kind of the state of how things are right now. So last night, the Libertarian Party Twitter account, the national account, retweeted the Mises Caucus saying, here is NPR making the case that Angela McArdle's use of the Libertarian Party as transactional leverage with Trump played a crucial role in freeing Ross Ulbricht. And it goes into a little more about the details of that. And there's a screenshot of an article called Trump pardons drug kingpins, even as he escalates U.S. drug war rhetoric. Now, how does it look when the LNC is investigating Angela McArdle for possible embezzlement? At the very least, it's depending on, we can quibble about legal definitions, but she passed money on to her boyfriend without people knowing and under an LLC that no one really knew was him, at least from what I've gathered so far. How can there be that investigation going on? Well, let's say if the LP were acting competently. How can there be that investigation going on and the LP is tweeting something praising her when she resigned at 1 a.m. On a Friday night to take a job in the Trump administration that she has not started yet? Don't worry, guys.
These very, very real goes to another school job in the Trump administration. Yes.
And I will say that, and the LNC member I talked to, I asked if they wanted credit for getting this taken down, and they just said to say that it was the team or leadership that got it taken down. So I would give them credit, but I don't know if they want their name out there as the person who did it. But the tweet did get taken down once I brought it to their attention. The fact that the tweet went out is a problem. The fact that the tweet was taken down is good, and that's the kind of corrective action we should see when it comes to things like this and when it comes to things like LPNH. But the fact that it went up means that there's an issue with people who have access to the Twitter account.
Yeah, the other part of corrective action should be firing whoever tweeted that, or restricting that, at least having some consequence for tweeting that in the first place. It's a wildly unprofessional thing to tweet beyond anything else, beyond the context of the investigation.
Yeah, and I can't verify who tweeted this out, obviously. I don't have any way of doing that. But I will say, and I'm not saying he tweeted this, even though he very well could have, I will say that the communications director for the Libertarian Party is still Brian McWilliams, who Angela brought on and who I have seen a lot of terrible messaging from. I mean, at some point, I think you should probably get rid of him and bring in someone who's not a holdover from the, let's call it the Angela McArdle regime.
She's gonna steal that name too.
Wreck the regime. But again,
Hey, don't advertise for his book. Come on.
Actually, well, I wanted to bring up something that Rechtenwald, who again was the Mises Caucus presidential candidate for 2024, who only narrowly lost to Chase Oliver for the presidential nomination,
and only lost because he took some gummies.
Yeah, only lost because he got high as shit the night before on like a national stage and just completely screwed up. But
which will never stop being funny that that's how somebody lost the Libertarian nomination for president. But that's fine.
But he can't go like more than 24 hours without blaming the Jews for something, as we all know. And again, you would think because of that, the LP would want to do something to like distance themselves from the image of the last few years, but I guess not. But last night at 9:26 p.m., and his account is currently locked, but we have some little birdies who bring us information. He said Mormonism is probably a Jewish psyop. So now he's blaming Mormonism on the Jews now, which is an interesting one. I don't know what else. But I haven't seen like the Mises Caucus even give like an "are bad guys" on endorsing him for president. Yeah, because I don't think they think it was that big of an issue. I mean, it was. He didn't tweet this obviously before the presidential nomination, but there was stuff he threw out there that was like, "Oh yeah, this is very obviously some anti-Semitic coding going on," where he was talking about like something about the blood of children or something like that. It was obvious what it was, but he did the little thin veil before he decided to write a book called The Cabal Question that apparently he originally wanted to name The Jewish Question, and then Amazon wouldn't let him post it like that. He said that the other day. But again, it's not just LPNH, it's not just Rechtenwald. There is a huge issue with this. We could go for hours on all of the different people, all of the different state affiliates that are putting out this kind of stuff. We're talking about the worst of the worst right now, but it's everywhere. All right, to fill the dead air, do we have anything we want to touch on here?
I wanted to make a joke about how his strategy of trying to sell books to people who can't read is probably not a good one.
Could it be theoretically Heist that was Rex's source for weed? Didn't he do that for a while?
Yeah, I think he was a weed delivery driver.
Yeah,
like
weed delivery driver.
When he was like a Bitcoin mascot or whatever, Bitcoin ATM thing. I just noticed that picture of him in the costume, which is totally fine. That is significant. Walking around in a costume is significantly more respectable than being the chair of the Mises Caucus.
It's true.
I have no problem with people who wear costumes.
And more truth in advertising.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I do want to touch on, just to make sure that our whole audience knows, is people like Kaufman and the LPNH really can't be rehabilitated. It's not going to happen.
Correct. I do think that there are people, because obviously I was one, Archie was one. There are people who have been in the Mises Caucus that had good intentions and turned a blind eye to things, were naive about things. I'm happy to admit that I was incredibly naive about things. So there are former Mises Caucus members that I do think can change and be worked with and become legitimate, or not, I don't want to say legitimate, but respectable members of the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian movement.
But the key word you said there is former. We're several years past the point where it's any current Mises Caucus members, unless there's somebody who joined yesterday, took one look at it and said, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore." Anybody who's been around, they know what's up. There's no excuse for not knowing.
I could see it if it's like someone who hasn't really been around much or something and not really paying attention much.
So
and
they have to have not been paying attention at all. Really.
Yeah.
But
but
sure.
My point was that, but someone like Jeremy Kaufman, someone like Angela McArdle, someone like Michael Heiss, you don't want them anywhere near the party. I've said it before.
And the people who have been supporting them, the same boat. You don't want them anywhere near anything.
Yeah,
not just politically, as a competent organization. Like they're so bad at organizational management, at anything that has to do with running with competency, that you wouldn't want them, even if their politics were better, or even if their behavior was better. You wouldn't want them near any organization you're a part of.
Correct. I mean, their entire strategy was fuck your donors, we'll find more, and they were just waiting on the crypto whales to come in, and the crypto whales apparently have been beached and aren't going to be here anytime soon.
But the UCC commercial code is going to save us, you know. Yeah, that's where the money is.
But yeah, I can't wait for the
fringes are the flag. The fringes are gold. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be what's going to save Angela if the investigation says that there was embezzlement or any kind of misconduct. The fringe on the flag means the courtroom is a ship, so that wasn't taken into account. All right. Do we have anything else we want to touch on today?
No, I think that covers it.
So, to recap, the meeting is at 7 p.m. tonight. I think the LNC meeting, I believe LP Alliance is going to be live streaming it on YouTube if you want to be able to comment. You can also register for it on Zoom. You do have to register ahead of time. So I don't know if we've already reached the deadline for that. And when I say 7 p.m., I mean 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, which is when the meeting is. But the policy manual amendments are going to be up first. I think it's 3 of them. And then they're supposed to be going into this censure motion. I don't know if there's going to be debate or if they're just going to jump right into it. I assume there's going to be some talking about it first, but it's going to be interesting to watch. And even when we're at 5:24 right now, Eastern time, and the LNC meeting is set to start in 1 hour and 36 minutes, I do encourage all of you to contact whichever LNC members you think will listen to you. Feel free to attach the LPNH tweet from May 25th, where they said that ending slavery and letting Black people vote was the worst thing the American government ever did, and encourage whichever LNC members you're emailing or contacting to support this censure motion, because it would be a good thing if it were to somehow pass, which it's almost certainly not going to. But it is worth a try. So, meeting tonight. Anything else we want to say before we wrap up, or are we all good?
Nothing to do with this, but tariffs are taxes, and fuck tariffs.
Yeah.
Fuck tariffs.
I think we can agree with that one. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'm sure we'll have something to say after this meeting tonight on a future podcast, and we will see you again soon.
Goodbye.
Buy shirt, get money. No, other way. We get money. You send money, we get shirt.